once again everyone, welcome back to my channel. This week's video is going to be another marker review. You guys seem to like the last one that I did, so I decided to do one a month from now on. This month's video will be covering the Art and Fly brush markers. These markers are one of my favorite equivalents to Copic markers. They're not exactly the same, of course, but they are very comparable to some of the really good brush markers that I've used in the past, and I've used a lot of different types of brush markers. These ones are pretty affordable in marker terms. They aren't exactly cheap, but they're not super expensive, and I'm going to go into the pros and cons, and I'll talk about the pricing and all that kind of stuff so you guys can learn a bit more about these markers. There aren't that many reviews out there of the brush markers. There's lots of reviews of the bullet nib markers, but I think it's because the brush nib markers are a little bit newer, so there aren't as many reviews, so I'm going to try and do my best to get as much information out there for you guys. And as always with my review videos, all the things I talk about will be listed in the video description down below if you want to check those out. So I'm going to talk about the pricing of these markers first. The Art and Fly brush markers come in 4 different sets. There is a set of 48, which is the largest set you can get, a set of 24, and then 2 separate sets of 6. The 2 separate sets of 6, one set has a gray tone markers in it, and the other one is skin tone markers. And then there's a 24 set and the 48 set, which has the majority of the colors with the exception of the grays and the skin tones. So if you wanted to get the complete set of these markers, you'd also have to get the skin tone and gray sets as well. The 2 6 marker sets are about $14 depending on when you buy them on Amazon, because I do believe it said on the Art and Fly website that these are currently only being sold through Amazon. And as I said, there will be links down below. The 24 marker set is usually around $35, and the 48 brush marker set is around $80. I grabbed these around Black Friday time, and they were up for an Amazon daily deal, so if you are one of those people who checks Amazon daily deals pretty often, keep an eye out, because sometimes Art and Fly will post these markers up for a little bit cheaper than that, and if you're looking to get them, that's a good way to get them for a little bit cheaper. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the pros and cons of these markers. I'm going to start with the pros, because I have more pros than I have cons for these, obviously, since I like them a lot. They are refillable, which is really awesome, considering that they're not terribly expensive. Having a refillable marker is great, because that means you never have to buy the marker again, you only have to buy a refill, and a refill will last you forever. Not forever, but you know, it'll last you a lot longer than the life of one marker. You can also buy replacement nibs for them. The refills and the marker nibs are sold on the Art and Fly website, which will be linked down below, of course. They have really good ink consistency in them. They flow really well. I didn't have any problems with the nibs like clogging or getting gunky or anything like that. The ink flow was really consistent and nice. The 48 set, along with the skin tone and gray sets, provide a pretty good range of colors. There's a little bit of a, in my opinion, a lack of more like pastel shades, because that's something that I like to have in my marker sets, but they seem to be pretty consistently adding new colors to their collection, so maybe they'll be adding some more colors sometime. But for now, the color range is pretty good for the price that you're paying, which is always nice. They don't smell, because I always talk about smell of alcohol markers in any of my reviews. These have absolutely no smell at all, which is one of the reasons why I like them so much, because Copics have no smell and these don't either. Marker smells bothers me, so I like when the markers don't have a scent. The barrels of the markers they're pretty sturdy, and they're in like a hexagon shape, so it kind of prevents the markers from rolling away. Unlike the Copic Chows, which roll all over the place when you're using them, these ones, because they are the hexagon shape, stay pretty stationary when you're using them, which I really like. The brush nib itself is pretty consistent through all the markers. I have occasionally run across one that The nib is a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit out of the marker, but you can kind of push it back in a little bit and then it's fine. It's pretty flexible. It's not quite as bendy as the Copic brush nib, but it's definitely probably the closest one that I found in terms of bendiness. So I didn't test these over pen because that's not the way I like to color things, but I have heard that they generally work with most inking pens pretty well. Just be sure to test something out on a separate piece of paper before you ink over anything that you've drawn, just in case they aren't quite compatible with the pen that you used. I colored these over pencil and they worked just perfectly fine for me. Didn't really have much cons in terms of these markers. One of the things I did notice that there is a discrepancy between the colors of the caps and the colors of the actual pen, which seems to be a reoccurring theme between most markers. I always just do color swatches, so it doesn't really bother me that the cap colors and the actual ink colors don't really match, but if that bothers you, just keep that in mind. And the only other real con I can think of is that because there is a slightly limited amount of colors, it is sometimes hard to get that like mid-tone shade, so blending between lights and darks can be a little bit difficult, but that can definitely be worked around if you like know your materials and know how to color pretty well with markers. But overall, those are the only cons that I could think of, which is pretty good. So I definitely recommend these markers if you're like a artist who's looking to start their marker collection and they're trying to find something that's not as expensive as Copics but is kind of in that same style of marker. I definitely think that these are worth picking up and trying out. As I've said, these are some of my favorite Copic equivalents, and yeah, that is not a very easy thing to match because Copics, I really like my Copics, so but I do find that I use these quite a lot. They're really good as like a grab-and-go marker, so sometimes I carry them around with me a lot. But overall, I definitely would recommend checking these out if you're interested in trying out a new type of marker and don't want to spend a ton of money on them. Yeah, that is my review and little demo of the Art and Flight brush markers. As I said at the beginning of the video, there will be a link in, or mini links in the video description down below of where you can check these markers out for yourself. And yeah, you can feel free to leave me marker review requests in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you're not already, and give this video a like. It helps to support my channel a lot, and I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye!